Hey athletes, today we're going to be talking about different protein shakes. Again, if you guys have any questions further beyond this video, ask me. I can always do another follow-up video, but make sure you understand what it is you're trying to accomplish with your protein shake, with your post-workout drink. That way you know you're headed down the right direction. I would hate if your goal is to lose weight for you to have a recovery drink that just pounds a bunch of sugar, okay? I would hate if your goal is to gain a bunch of muscle for you to only have a protein shake, okay? So make sure you have the right intent when you're getting your protein products. Now, you saw in the protein bar video when I was talking about different protein bars, I actually went out and bought a bunch of protein bars just to show you a few varieties and what you look for when you're doing protein bars, especially if you're on the go. Now, I'm not willing to just go out buy a bunch of different types of protein products, different shakes, different things like that, because there are so many and they all do different things. So let's talk about the 5 different types of proteins. So the one that you've heard most about is a basic whey protein powder, okay? Typically a scoop is going to have about 120 calories per serving. If it's just an isolate or something like that, you're going to have anywhere from 20 to 25 grams of protein. It's going to be lower carb, lower fat. Now, this isn't a video about getting into the, nitty gritty of what the difference between a concentrate and isolate, a hydrolyzed or, whatever, okay? We're just talking about just basic types when you're going out and buying one. Now, most of your protein companies, your Dimetizes, your Optimum Nutritions, your All-Stars, whatever, again, they're going to sell some basic 100% whey protein, and that's what I was just describing, a very high protein, low fat, low carb type protein powder. So when you're buying one of those, usually what I look for is price per pound. That's usually what I'm going for when I'm doing it. You've seen my supplement video hopefully by now. I certainly am taking Dimetize. Why? Because it's third-party tested, right? That's a huge thing to me when it comes to protein powders especially, so that's something to look out for when you're buying your product. So if it has a stamp, an NSF certified or an Informed Choice certified stamp on it, that's a pretty good product. Or it's at least what it says it is, okay? It might not be the best product ever, but still, it says what it is. Now, those high protein products, those are great, whey-based protein products. Those are great right after a workout, trying to supplement your protein. Again, it's a high protein based drink. Everybody knows you need protein to help rebuild your muscle. Your nervous system needs it. You need protein for just about everything in your life, okay? So when you're going for it, I recommend a protein shake, especially if you can't eat enough actual protein. Actual protein is always going to be better, but it's fine. Again, there is no set brand. There is no set quality that I'm looking for, just so long as you're smart when you're buying it. Is it Informed Choice, NSF certified, third-party tested? If it has 15 grams of fat in it, and you're just trying to supplement protein, that's probably not the one for you. If there's 100 grams of sugar in it, or even more than about 3 or 4, it's probably not the one for you, or not the flavor for you. And again, I'm not that picky when it comes to protein, because you should really only have 40 grams at the most in a day. And I'm saying 40 grams, if you have that in a day, it shouldn't be every day. Once a week kind of thing. I do about 20 to 30-ish maybe a day, again, because I'm trying to get enough to be 1 gram per pound of body weight. I weigh 165 pounds. I recommend for myself 165 grams of protein. You might not need that much. Now, that's great. That's one protein powder. Now, there are lots of other protein type products. Okay, again, we're just sticking to the drinks right now. We're not talking puddings or cookies or anything like that. So, they make non-milk based protein powders. Typically, when you're doing this, when you're buying them, I always recommend, especially if you're going plant-based, get a yellow pea and brown rice protein blend. Then we know that we're getting all of the amino acids that we need, right? There's more than just 3, okay? You've probably heard of the BCAAs. There's more than just those 3. There are so many of them, and if you only have yellow pea or only have brown rice, you're not getting a complete amino acid profile, okay? So when you're buying these types of products, the plant-based proteins, you have to understand there are going to be some carbohydrates that come with it, more so typically than in a milk-based protein. Now, if you make that work within your diet, that's great. Assuming it's not just a bunch of maltodextrin or sugar or just a bunch of crap that they throw in there, and it is in fact just yellow pea and brown rice, you know what? That's not flour, right? Especially if you're in the month of flour-free February. It's fine. You can go for it, okay? Again, if it's complete and you get about 20 grams per serving, that's great. I totally recommend, and it's fine by me if you go with a plant-based protein product. I'm fine with that. Just remember, there are going to be more carbs that come with it. Now, Josh, I've heard about beef protein. I've heard about different, grass-fed protein. And first of all, grass-fed protein is a joke. The only thing that matters if it's grass-fed is if it has a bunch of fat in it. Fatty acid profiles are different from corn-fed to grass-fed. Your protein content, your protein quality isn't different. So if it says grass-fed, you're just paying too much for it. But beef protein, if you try to go away from a milk-based protein but you don't want the carbs in a plant-based protein, a beef protein can be fine. Just know that there is going to be more creatine in it, okay? Creatine is a supplement that I take. Sometimes I actually add creatine into it. Creatine comes with all of your meats. Now, if you're a strength type athlete, you use creatine just to do your work, okay? So having a little creatine isn't a bad thing. But if your goal is, let's say, to be as small as possible, creatine might not be the supplement for you. You might want to avoid the beef-based protein. Not saying creatine is going to make you bloat, but a lot of people use creatine in order to gain weight. I'm not saying it's going to make you gain weight, but it could, okay? So if your goal is to have as little body weight as possible, you probably don't need a creatine, especially if you don't resistance train too often. Now, there are some products, they're called mass gainers, okay? Size putter-oners, okay? Now, there are some mass gainers out there that are great, okay? They have some good fats in them, they have good proteins, they have good carbs in them. And then there are some that are made really inexpensively, they're cheap, and they're not that great for you. So when you're buying a mass gainer, there's going to be a ton of protein in it. That's great, okay? But with it, there are going to be fats and there are going to be carbs. And if that's what you're looking to do, maybe for a meal replacement, right? Ladies, you can use a mass gainer as a meal replacement. You don't have to spend an extra $10 a pound on a meal replacement because of them selling it to you as a meal replacement. Mass gainers can work too. But if they're getting their carbohydrates from sugar, maltodextrin, dextrose, sucrose, whatever, that's not the type of mass gainer you want, okay? That mass gainer is meant for somebody, and I'll talk more about this later with the carb-based kind of recovery drinks, but that's for somebody who just hammered out their body and is looking to try to drive as much anabolic gains as they possibly can, trying to get as big as they can, trying to pump a bunch of sugar into their muscles, okay? So if it has, again, all those sugar-based things, probably not the one for you. When we're looking at the fats, we also want to make sure we're looking at good oils. If they just put a bunch of canola oil in there, probably not for you. Sunflower and safflower oil, it's okay. Some products actually use coconut oil. Okay, dehydrated coconut oil. That's great. Okay, that's a really good fatty acid. Some of them use flaxseed. Some of them use chia seeds. Again, you can get hemp seed for your fats. But again, try to stay away from your canola, your safflower, your sunflower oils. Now, Josh, okay, you said stay away from the sugars if we're not trying to gain weight. But again, if you guys are, I'll talk more about that in a second. What carbs can we get? Man, there's some mass gainers. MHP is the brand. It's called Up Your Mass. It's a great meal replacement. They use, if they haven't changed the product, sweet potato. Okay, they use yams or sweet potato as their carb, right? Dehydrated sweet potato. It still mixes really thin, but that's a great one. Some mass gainers use oats. okay? Some mass gainers use brown rice powder. Again, you can get a meal replacement, a mass gainer that has a decent carbohydrate in it. Now, it doesn't go along with the studies of, you pound a bunch of sugar after a workout and it drives anabolic growth. But again, if your goal isn't to go on stage one day and be the biggest badass on the stage, you probably don't need one with a bunch of sugar in it. It's just going to spike your insulin. There can be some negative things to it. So again, getting a brown rice, a sweet potato, or an oat-based mass gainer or a meal replacement can be great for you. Now, the fifth protein powder or supplement I want to talk about drinkable-wise is the recovery drinks. So, you just hammer it out your body. And by hammering out your body, I'm saying you're doing, 3 to 6 sets, maybe even 8 sets of 8 repetitions, 10 repetitions, 12 repetitions. Your workout consisted of about 16 sets of work, maybe 18. You do this style of training 4 times a week. Maybe you have a metabolic finisher, some really glycolytic. You use glycogen, lots of sugar in your muscle for your workouts. A recovery drink can make you feel really good, especially if you do workouts like the group training ones I do. We call them afterburns. Holy crap. The day that I'm doing this video, we just did an afterburn class where we did 40 rounds of glycolytic work. Now, there's also core work in there, and again, the whole point was to just burn a bunch of sugar, okay? Now, some of the athletes go into that and they want to lose weight. That's great, okay? You burned a bunch of glycogen, a bunch of sugar stores. That way, throughout the day, as you're eating, you're going to restore some of those sugar stores. You're less likely to put it on as body fat. Now, some of my athletes that take those classes just to drop their body fat, they're the types that are going to use a recovery drink. Now, recovery drinks are going to have a protein in it, typically a whey-based protein, but they're going to have a ton of sugar in it, okay? Up to 40 grams of sugar. Now, if you're taking a recovery drink for the purpose of driving sugar into your muscle, I highly recommend you get dextrose sugar. Now, why is that? Dextrose is the closest thing that we can get to glucose without taking a glucose tablet. Dextrose is very readily available, enters your bloodstream within 20 minutes. That plus the whey protein that you're going to take, boom, you are going to get a ton of anabolic gain. Now, Josh, some recovery drinks have Waxy Maize or Maize or whatever, or however you pronounce it, or maltodextrin. Waxy Maize is a carb. It's a very fast absorbing carb, if and only if you take it on an empty stomach. If there's 1 gram of protein or fat, you're not really going to absorb it. If there's any fiber, if there's anything, it's going to slow down that absorption of that Waxy Maize. So all of the advertisement, when they say this is the fastest recovery drink, if there's anything but Waxy Maize in it, it's not. Now, if all you're looking for is to drive a bunch of sugar into your muscle, great, Waxy Maize is the way to go. But no matter what kind of training you do, especially if you do it with me, you're going to break down that muscle. Just driving a bunch of sugar isn't necessarily going to help. You're going to want some protein. So Waxy Maize isn't on my top priority. Again, I don't want you to have sweet potato in that case. I don't want oats. I don't want brown rice. I don't want maltodextrin anyway. I don't want high fructose corn syrup, okay? So, I also don't want a bunch of lactose, okay? Chocolate milk is one way of doing it, but man, there are better ways than just chocolate milk and cheaper ways to do it. So again, if you're looking for a good performance at the end of my workout, it drives anabolic gains, I'm looking for a 4-to-1 ratio. 4 dextrose carbohydrates to 1 gram of protein. So if you're going to take 10 to 15 grams of protein, you should take 40 grams of sugar. That's about what I'm looking for if you're really looking to optimize your recovery. Now, Josh, 15 grams of protein, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. You're right. But when you're doing just a glycolytic workout, a high endurance type workout, a triathlon training, whatever, you don't need a whole lot of protein. If you just did a bodybuilding workout, fine. You can definitely break the rules a little bit and get up to 30 grams of protein in that after shake. You don't need 60, guys, okay? You don't. 30 is fine, then yeah, you can bump it up 40 grams of sugar, 50 grams of sugar again. If you get sick when you take these shakes though, it's probably not for you, or you just overdosed on sugar, okay? So be very cautious and conscious when you're doing it. But we have your protein shake for more of a protein supplement. We have your mass gainer shakes, aka your meal replacements. We talked about your plant-based proteins. We talked about beef-based proteins, which is also an alternative form of whey-based. We talked about your recovery drinks and what to look for. And again, if you guys have any questions further beyond this video, ask me. I can always do another follow-up video, but make sure you understand what it is you're trying to accomplish with your protein shake, with your post-workout drink. That way you know you're headed down the right direction. I would hate if your goal is to lose weight for you to have a recovery drink that just pounds a bunch of sugar, okay? I would hate if your goal is to gain a bunch of muscle for you to only have a protein shake, okay? So make sure you have the right intent when you're getting your protein products.